Hi, my name is Michael Schulz. I am co-owner of 46 West Hair Studio in Rockaway, New Jersey. And today I'm here with my beautiful model Tracy. As you can see, let me have you tilt down. Today what we're going to do on Tracy is we're going to take the color that we've worked with on her previously and we're going to dress it up just a little bit more than where it is now. Essentially what we do is I like to keep Tracy with a bit of what I see as a melted shadow root. So I like to keep her with a beautiful violet tone, like a VV with a little bit of RV. So I essentially go in with my Top Chic in Goldwell and I use her base color as a 5 VV and a 6 RV. With that, I'm going to incorporate a little bit of a balayage highlight, and I'm going to kind of utilize a bit of, turn your head for me just a bit. I'm going to use a little bit of like a teardrop sectioning, and I'm going to do a rather wider placement that's going to be smaller towards the bottom, and it's going to work its way up to give a little bit of definition with a little bit of light. Now to do the lightening, I'm going to rely on my Oxycar Platine with a 30 volume developer. I'm also going to take her base tone, you can straighten your head, love. I'm going to take her base tone as well, and I'm going to reverse balayage to bring her base down. So it's going to look essentially like larger triangles pointing downward to be able to give her some more definition and to break up some of this old color that you can see is a little bit washed out and a little on the dull side. So essentially when everything is all said and done, I want to give her a beautiful glossy shiny hairstyle that's going to have a beautiful color that's going to accentuate this beautiful asymmetric haircut that she has now, that I will show you how I created this on her as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started from here. So I'm going to start off with my mixing. Okay, so to start off, what I'm going to start with is I'm going to rely on my Top Chic, and I'm going to work with 6 RV Max, and I'm going to work with 5 VV Max. I really want that reddish purple punch that's going to give me that true violet tone that you can still see some of it is still holding on in her base. I'm actually going to be mixing that with a 10 volume developer or a 3% developer. I want it to deposit in the hair as opposed to shifting her natural, because her natural tone is already at a level 6, and I want to keep it at a tone on tone to a shade darker than where she is naturally. With that, I'm going to mix an equal part ratio of the 5 VV Max and the 6 RV Max. I'm going to go a little heavier with my mixing because I'm also going to utilize the same 10 volume product to work its way down and to create my low lighting formula that's going to reverse balayage down into points. Along with that, I'm going to rely on the Goldwell thermal sheets to isolate my lightener through the diamond shape pattern. And what I'll do at that point is that's going to be lightened, and it's going to give me some larger reverse V's where the light will come up and come down on the bottom to where the bottom will be heavier. It'll give a look of almost like a sombre style technique to where the bottoms will be brighter, and it'll actually bring up towards the crown with smaller pieces of blonde. So to get started, I'm going to utilize my beaker, and I'm going to allow myself 60 mLs of the 3% developer, which in turn I'm going to mix with 30 grams of 5 VV, and don't mind the bubbles, and 30 mLs of the 6 RV Max, for a total of 120 mLs of color. And what I'll be doing is I'm going to be applying the color first in the base within the first ½ an inch, and then I will work that down as I work through. But once I get this on, I'm going to go in with my lightener first, and I'm going to skip some sectioning in between to create a little bit of depth as well, so it actually works more cohesive and it doesn't look like a solid panel that will look separate from the haircut that we'll be working on afterwards. Okay, so with my lightener, I have a scoop which measures 25 grams of the Oxycar Platine, which I've weighed out. And now I'm going to make sure my scale is zeroed out, and I'm going to utilize my 30 volume developer, which is my 9% from Top Chic. And I'm actually going to, they're going to yell at me for this. I'm going to mix it with 35 grams of the 30 volume developer. Of course. So I'm currently at 20 grams. I'm going to add a little more until I hit 35 grams. Okay, so now that I'm at 35 grams, I'm going to take a whisk and I'm going to start to work that together until it becomes a nice creamy consistency. And as you can see, I'm not utilizing a very fast motion because I don't want to set too many air bubbles into my lightener. So now you can see that I'm getting a beautiful, nice, and creamy consistency. And for me, this is perfect. Okay, so let's get started with the application. Okay, so now we're going to start with the application process. What you're going to see me do is I'm going to start by outlining my 4 quadrants, and then I apply from there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to start the application, I'm going to load my brush. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to apply right at the regrowth. Okay, so now that I have all 4 quadrants applied, I went ahead and I did actually pull some through underneath in the very back to kind of keep the underneath deeper and darker and have the light more in the upper layers and up to the apex and into the crown of the head. So at this point, you can see that I brought my center part over a bit further because I'm going to utilize this section to add some light and dark. And I'm going to use the thermal sheets to do so. Okay, so as you can see, now that I have everything applied, I brought her part a little further over. So I'm going to utilize this front section where I'm going to put the light. And this is where I'm also going to alternate some light and dark with some hand-painted techniques isolated in with the Goldwell thermal foils. I also took the liberty to go ahead and I actually pulled through the underneath section. I went a little bit above the occipital bone and I actually rounded it upwards so it creates a nice depth underneath, and it's going to allow these lighter pieces to be on the top through the apex and crown of the head and to cascade over into the longer section of this beautiful asymmetrical cut. So I'm going to start off by taking a section above the ear, and I'm going to go about a ½ inch above. So at this point, I'm going to start this with a low light to create a shadow area right above the ear. So I'm going to take the rest of this and clip this out of my way. And since I'm utilizing Top Chic with a 10 volume, I'm going to gently comb this down ever so slightly. And in this section here, I'm going to create my reverse V isolated in my Goldwell thermal foil. So now that I have my thermal sheet placed, I'm going to go in with my small angled Goldwell brush, and I'm going to start to connect this color downward, bringing it in from the outer edges. And I'm actually going to literally create myself a triangle of depth right through the center of this section of hair, where you can see that the outer edges are remaining on the lighter side, but this depth is being brought down into a point into the center. So at that point, I'm going to fold this up. And that is my first section finished. That there is the low light, and I'm going to go into this next section and create a highlight. So starting with a little bit smaller of a section, I'm going to go about 1/4 inch, pinning the rest of this up. I'm going to take this section, I'm going to utilize this almost in a color melting fashion. Placing my thermal foil. I'm going to go in about halfway down the hair shaft, and this is where I'm going to start to apply my lightener. And again, I'm working with Oxycar Platine, and I'm going to make sure that these ends are nice and saturated. And I'm going to start to slowly bring this up on the outer edges, and I'm going to allow a little bit of that base color to blend down into the lightener, but ever so slightly. And I'm going to go a little bit up in the center, and as you can see, basically this is going to create for me a hand-painted balayage section with 3 peaks, one on either side and one up into the center. And for my own thing, I'm going to go in with my base color and my small brush, and I'm going to just deepen the center of those internal triangles just to give myself a little more definition. You can see I'm just slowly feathering that down, and I'm going to work with that right where that is. And I'm going to continue working up this quadrant as it gets larger to right above the eyebrow on the other side. Okay, so now as you see, we finished up with the color on Tracy. And what I ended up doing with her tone is I went in after I washed everything out and I applied the pastel lavender, 10 mLs of pastel lavender with 5 mLs of the pastel indigo with the Colorance blue lotion. I applied that in the regrowth area and out about 1.5 inches. I then went in on the ends with another formula in the pastels as well, where I did 10 mLs of the pastel peach and 10 mLs of the pastel rose and mixed them as well, because I wanted to keep a very violet, vibrant base with a nice soft tone through the ends that's going to give me a bit of a rose gold tone, which you can see it actually turned out beautifully. Let me have you turn your head just a touch. And you can see where my placement is, that the placement works its way down a little heavier through here, and it's a little bit softer as it goes into the side that she parts away from. So what I'm going to do with the haircut now is I'm going to keep this asymmetrical look. So I'm going to keep this right side longer. This left side is going to come up and it's going to hit right at the jawline. And the back will actually be shorter. This is going to come right to the hairline. And then what I'll do is I'm going to do some texturizing and some layering techniques that's going to pull this in just a little bit, but it's going to keep this beautifully sleek and under. And it's going to be a nice, solid perimeter through this one side on the left, to where this will be a solid perimeter and it's going to angle down drastically in the front here. And then I'll go in and work with some interior layers, and I'm going to texturize through them, piece them out, make it nice and wispy. So it's going to give a really beautiful finished effect. So this is the finished result. This is what I was going for. You can see it's a nice, airy, asymmetrical bob. It's one of my favorites that I do. It's one of what I consider my signature cuts, with one of my signature color placements as well. So as you can see, if I can unlock the chair, you can see where the color will actually flow into the shape of the hair, and you can see how I brought the color deeper to the right side and brighter to the left. And what I did to create this beautiful texture is I finished her haircut and her style with a little bit of the KMS dry wax. That way it gives a nice, pliable, playful texture. And it's super fun. And the color and the cut both, I think, look amazing. And as always, Tracy was a trooper, and she always loves the work that I do. Am I right?
You are correct.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear.